requests pending, and also other requests with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for copies of these permits that they may have had, which may very well indicate who was performing this work there at the World Trade Center, and maybe some other information, hopefully. And those requests are pending, and hopefully we'll have those answers shortly.
Well, incredible. I certainly look forward to that, and once again would urge people to go to 911blogger.com to keep an eye on that information resource for more information as it develops on that. But Aidan Monaghan, I think it's self-evident that the tack that you're taking with Freedom of Information Act requests is an extremely fruitful area of research, and you never really know what kind of information you're going to end up with when you put out these requests. And I think that's one of the sort of wild cards that we have in this research, in hopefully getting out some of the nuggets that can lead us towards other areas of research and other things that we didn't even think to ask before. So it's an extremely effective tool, and to that end, I think maybe it would be a good idea to encourage other people to take up this tool, because obviously you're doing an incredible amount of work, but you can't do everything yourself. So tell us a little bit, walk us through the process of putting in a Freedom of Information Act request and what really goes into this whole process.
Okay, sure. Yeah, all federal agencies have access to, or basically operate through Freedom of Information Act laws. And if you know what you're looking for and you know who has what you're looking for, submitting a request is really not that difficult lately, because most agencies have gone to the electronic means of doing so, and basically visiting their websites will allow anyone to find, eventually, without too much trouble, the links to the Freedom of Information Act officers of each agency and the email addresses for those people. And if you know what you're looking for, you can basically fire off a request within 5 or 10 minutes.
So basically, as a rule of thumb, I assume it's best to keep the requests as specific as you possibly can.
Sure. And in many cases, I've found that the officers are willing to work with you. If they don't feel they have enough information, they'll contact you and ask for more. And most have been very cooperative, except for the Department of Justice. Because of everything being exempt from disclosure, they just give you very short answers and so forth. But most of the other agencies have been helpful when I've needed it.
Well, then on the flip side of that, do you think it might be fruitful to cast the net widely and then narrow it down with the help of the Freedom of Information Officer?
Yeah, I've done that specifically, and they will come back and in some cases and say we need something a little more general, or rather more specific. There haven't been a whole lot of agencies that I've really been able to focus on, because given the issue of 9/11, only so many agencies may have been associated with the event itself. The FAA, NIST, Department of Justice, FBI, CIA, Secret Service, CIA to a lesser extent.
Right, exactly, and obviously those are the places where people should be concentrating their firepower, so to speak, in requesting these documents and trying to get some of these nuggets of information out. But well, let's step back for a moment and take a look at the bigger picture of what we're really doing here, because obviously we are uncovering some of the information that is hidden in the corridors of power that actually is there for the most part, and we're just trying to get it out to the public about one of the defining political moments of our generation. So certainly this is no trivial matter in any stretch of the imagination. And as we sit here on the brink of the 9th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, I guess there's always the fear that although we've clearly won the hearts and minds of many of the people who have begun questioning the official story of 9/11, the political and the judicial action on that front seems to be further away than ever, and it almost seems like maybe a losing momentum. So my question is, I guess, two-part. A, how do you stay motivated and to keep doggedly pursuing these truths? And B, what do you think is the ultimate direction that we're heading at this point, and what do you see playing out from this point?
your first question, what causes me to continue to pursue this?
Right. Yeah.
Just my belief that we're very close as a movement to really connecting all of the dots here. Thanks to the research of other parties and so forth, who've all collectively connected many dots. And I just feel like the answers to a couple of very compelling topics are not too far, in my opinion. They're really not that far away. With a few more steps, I believe we can finally connect a lot of dots here that will create, a fairly clear picture of really who is responsible for all of this.
So what do you think are those main dots that need to be connected, and how close are we?
Personally, well, with respect to the building demolitions, I mean, thanks to the research of others, I mean, I feel we're very close to the cause of that. In my humble opinion, the other significant area is the aircraft attacks themselves, and I've also done much research in that area, figuring out how these aircraft may have been covertly delivered to their targets that day. And it seems that the technology was all there and only became available just shortly before the attacks themselves. And I'm still pursuing that matter as often as I can.
So by covertly delivered, we're talking about some type of remote control?
Yeah, remote control is a term that's generally used to describe such methods. Actually, the technology, more specifically, that could have been and may have been most likely utilized were the autopilot functions of the aircraft and the navigation systems, brand new at the time, such as GPS. All of these brand new future function systems had only become available about a year before 9/11. And based on all the study I've done, they were quite capable of delivering the aircraft to the targets in New York City on 9/11. Highly accurate, redundant, reliable systems that almost virtually no one at the time knew about. They were cutting-edge research and development, the results of cutting-edge research and development by the FAA and Raytheon and other members of private industry, Rockwell Collins and other companies. And it just so happened that the 757s and 767s that were used that day were aircraft very central to that technology. They were some of the very first used. And just about a year before the attacks, all of these systems were in place. They were intended to be retroactively installed into the aircraft of the United and American fleets. The GPS signal had become available about 18 months before the attacks. And previously, for years, the military had always deliberately degraded the signal so to deter abuse by foreign enemies. But in 2000, in May that year, they removed the degradation of signal quality, and then later, a few months later, actually enhanced what GPS signals were available. They augmented those, basically allowing, for navigation purposes, a flight management system to determine within about 3 meters the location of an aircraft while it's in the air, which is extremely accurate and under autopilot control enough to deliver the aircraft to the targets, which were 208 feet wide in the cases of the World Trade Center towers. So I find all of the timing of the emergence of that technology quite suspect.
And absolutely fascinating, really, extremely interesting, and potentially, I guess, an extremely fruitful area of research. So what kind of information are you hoping to uncover in that regard?
Fortunately, I've been able to find most of that in open source materials. It's all there if one wants to really dig for it, and I've been chasing that aspect for about 3 years. And basically, one of the final pieces of the puzzle will be the information I've requested in my current lawsuit, which is basically the what is known as ACARS traffic. It's basically flight management computer automated radio communications that are sent back and forth between the airlines and an aircraft in the air, and it would basically verify or debunk the official narrative, because if the information does not match what was explained for the public with respect to these aircraft, then of course, we certainly have what could potentially be a smoking gun. I would like to see that information. I would like to know exactly, what sort of automated communications were taking place between the aircraft and the airlines on 9/11 in order to determine whether or not these aircraft were under some covert autopilot control, because the technology that became available about a year or so before 9/11, in fact allowed an airline to redirect, literally, virtually, an aircraft while it's in mid-flight by delivering electronically an entirely new flight plan from the one that's currently underway, for example. And most people don't realize that commercial aircraft, 95% of the time are under autopilot control. These aircraft can virtually fly themselves, and most people don't realize that. And I think that's why so many have bought into the official story. They have just assumed that it must be true because human pilots must be required to do what we observed that day, but in fact, other means are capable of doing what we all saw that day as well.
Well, extremely fascinating conversation, and as I have said repeatedly and continue to say, I hope people will go check out 911blogger.com, not only for your blog, but of course for the daily news updates and things regarding 9/11 research. But are there any other websites that you'd like to point people towards?
Currently not offhand necessarily. I mean, I think many are aware of sites such as the History Commons. They're continuously updating, and there's just so much information available there. It's a great place to start.
Absolutely, yeah. I concur wholeheartedly.
And just regarding and just regarding 9/11, the whole topic itself, basically, just in my humble opinion, the whole, and many others too, that the whole official story is basically no more than an unproven allegation. It's largely never been proven. From the building collapses to the aircraft attacks themselves, the government version of events has never been proven. And there are certainly alternative means for these attacks to have unfolded, and other alternative perpetrators and motives as well. And so it's definitely not an open and shut case by any means.
Absolutely right. And do you remain optimistic that 9/11 Truth will continue to have breakthroughs from this point?
I think so, and I think from here on out, I think really the great focus should remain on New York City itself with respect to the World Trade Center. The authorities there have jurisdiction to investigate what happened at the World Trade Center. I believe that the answers to what happened there will be found in the events in the weeks and months leading up to that day. What was going on in the World Trade Center, who was doing what there. And I believe that all those answers can be found with even a local investigation. I don't believe that the federal authorities are even required here. We don't have to try to move the immovable object in Washington, D.C. to get this done. This can all be done very locally there. And being that New York City was the victim, for the most part, of the attacks, there's obviously a great interest there. And once public support could be built, there could be enough of a push to compel these authorities to move on this information and really, find some of these answers for us and find out who actually was behind the attack. Because, as I said, the official story itself is an implausible allegation at this point in time for me.
It certainly is, and certainly we must continue to pursue truth and hopefully one day reach 9/11 justice as well. So absolutely, my hat's off to you once again for all the incredible work that you're doing, and I certainly wish the best of luck in all of your endeavors in the future. Aidan Monaghan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Sure, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.